What's up, movie fans? So this video, my next video, is actually going to be a ranking of all 23 Pixar movies, but something occurred to me. I honestly can't really remember most of the Pixar movies that well, like my opinion on them. I feel like I need to refresh my opinion on them, so I'm gonna have to rewatch all of them before I make a ranking of all of the Pixar movies. On the other hand, an update of the DCEU ranking I can do, because I actually did watch, like, a lot of the DCEU movies pretty recently. I watched Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey in 1984 all for the first time recently. Then I rewatched Batman v Superman and Man of Steel in anticipation for the Snyder Cut. I watched Justice League because I was bored, so, like, why not? And then I watched Aquaman and Shazam because they came on TV one day, so, like, what was I supposed to do? Not watch them? Yeah, I actually am, like, fresh on most of the DCEU movies. I haven't watched Wonder Woman that recently, but I don't know. Today I'm going to be re-ranking all of the DCEU movies from the last time I ranked them. So, yeah, I guess let's just get right into it. So number 9, the worst DCEU movie is actually gonna be Batman v Superman. A lot of people actually, for some reason, like this movie, so, like, a lot of people are gonna be like, how could you put it in last place? Like, did you watch the Ultimate Edition? That's the good version. Yeah, I watched the Ultimate Edition, and it's bad. I don't understand why people like this. Even the Ultimate Edition is bad. I don't understand why people like Batman v Superman. It's not a good movie. It feels like they looked at the MCU and they were like, hey, you remember how the MCU, like, set up the Avengers over multiple movies? So, like, they set up all the plot threads and introduced all the characters slowly, and they slowly built it up. Yeah, no, how about we don't do that, and we just do all of the build-up in one movie? That seems like a good idea. It wasn't a good idea. Like, this movie feels like it has absolutely no idea what it wants to be, and it makes no sense also. Batman wants to kill Superman because Superman accidentally killed a bunch of people. And meanwhile, Batman in this movie is killing a bunch of people. You see my problem? Batman's a hypocrite. A lot of the characters in this movie are just interpreted terribly. Like, Batman is a murdering psychopath. Lex Luthor is so insanely over the top that it's unbelievable that anyone would take him seriously. This movie just has so many problems, and I don't get why people really like Batman v Superman. It's not a very good movie. So number 8 is gonna be Suicide Squad. The first time I ranked all the DCEU movies, I hadn't seen this movie. I have seen it now, and I can confirm what everybody else has said. It's a bad movie. This movie's story, it just falls apart when you apply any level of logic to it whatsoever. Like, so Amanda Waller wanted to control a bunch of supervillains, but one of them turned on her. So in response to this, she sent the other supervillains to go capture her. Like, you see why that doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. But I do think that this movie, even with the bad story, had a chance at being good, because it's clear while you're watching that this wasn't supposed to be a story-focused movie. It's really supposed to be a character-focused movie. But it doesn't work on that level either, because it decided to spend the first, like, 45 minutes of the movie introducing all of the characters. And as a result, the first act of this movie goes so long that the second and the third acts have absolutely no time to develop. And that's not good. This movie's just not really enjoyable. It's not good. Speaking of movies that kind of feel like a mess, Number 7 is Justice League, which is, this movie feels like it's literally having an identity crisis. So, like, yeah. We all know the big behind-the-scenes story on this movie. It was taken away from Zack Snyder and re-edited into something it wasn't supposed to be. It was originally supposed to be this dark and gritty movie given to a director who's known for his light-hearted fun movies, so like that wasn't a good idea. It was originally supposed to be 4 hours long, but the studio gave it a mandate that it had to be less than 2 hours. That was a terrible idea. It didn't even have enough time to, like, finish the special effects on it, so it just looks terrible. This movie had one of the most ridiculous behind-the-scenes stories ever, and it really suffered as a result. It's tonally inconsistent, it's rushed, it's just a mess. So number 6 is Man of Steel. This movie feels really weird to me because it feels like it has an idea of what it wants to be, but no idea of how to do it. It feels like it has like this really great interesting theme, but it doesn't explore it very well. It has this great concept for a character arc for Clark, but it doesn't really dive deep into it or develop it. It feels like it has a basic idea of what it wanted this version of Superman to be, but no idea on how to convey that. Like, it feels like it wants to do something really cool, but it doesn't know how to. And as a result, this movie just, it feels so weird to me. I don't really understand the people who say that this is the best DCEU movie, though that is a popular opinion for some reason. I just don't get it. I just don't get what the appeal of this movie is. So number 5 is Wonder Woman 1984, the most recent movie in the DCEU. This movie I think it's really great on a character level. I think that the characters are developed really well in this movie. Diana, Cheetah, Maxwell Lord, they're all great characters, and I think that even Steve is pretty great in this movie. The problem here really lies in, like, the story. I think that this movie actually had some pretty interesting themes, too, and a pretty interesting way of exploring them. But the story of this movie is filled with so many plot holes. There are a lot of things in this movie that if you think about, they really seem kind of weird and messed up. Like, there's just a lot of plot holes here. The movie also has a really underwhelming ending and beginning. That's not good. Like, when your movie begins weak and it ends weak, that's not good at all. It has a lot of problems. I don't hate this movie as much as a lot of other people do. I do think that people took the hate for this movie a bit too far, but it's not a very good movie. The 5 movies that we've talked about so far, they're all not that great. Like, I don't really care for most of them. But the top 4, I actually think are pretty good. Like, the DCEU has managed to make 4 good movies, so good job. So number 4 is Birds of Prey. This movie has a really bad title. Like, the original title of it was terrible. But, past that, I think that this movie is pretty fun. I really like the structure of this movie and how crazy they made it to go with Harley Quinn's narration. I think they had, like, this really interesting, fun style. I really had a good time with a lot of the characters here. I think Harley Quinn and Black Mask are the 2 standouts because they're just a lot of fun. You also have Black Canary and Renee Montoya, who have great character arcs. I really like the backstory of Huntress. The little girl, who I don't really remember the name of, I don't really care for her that much. I don't think that she really was that interesting or compelling in any way. But besides that, most of the characters in this movie are pretty fun. This is just a pretty fun movie. Speaking of pretty fun movies, number 3 is Aquaman. This movie's pretty fun, but unlike Birds of Prey, this movie actually has, like, some depth to it, too. So I feel like it is definitely better than Birds of Prey. Like, character arc they gave to Aquaman was pretty good. I think Black Mask was a fantastic side villain. Orm was okay. I don't really think that he's that standout, but I think not Black Mask. I said Black Mask, didn't I? I meant Black Manta. Sorry. But Black Manta's, like, motivation, I think, was great. Orm wasn't that great. But I also really like the action in this movie. I think that, like, the long shots in this movie were really fun, and the action's just pretty good. I especially like the sequence in the village towards the middle of the movie. My only real problem with Aquaman would be the fact that a lot of the licensed music in this movie feels so out of place, and I don't really get, like, the choices they made with it. Like, some of it just really took me out of the movie, and I was like, of every song in the world, you chose that one to play during this scene? Like, it was just, it felt weird. So number 2 is Wonder Woman. Yeah, that's right, I put Wonder Woman at number 2. Last time I made this list, it was at number 1, but this time it's at number 2. I think I realized a problem with Wonder Woman, and now that I realized it, I can't give it the number 1 spot. But I still really like this movie. Like, don't get me wrong, this is a great movie. The acting is great, the characters are really interesting, the themes in this movie are fantastic, the story's pretty good, the action's great. This movie's really good. My problem with this movie is that the ending basically undercuts the entire main theme of the movie. The main theme of this movie is that there's not just one bad guy to blame for every single bad thing in the world. I'm going to spoil the movie a bit here if you haven't seen it. So when Wonder Woman defeats Ares at the end, the war ends. And I don't like that, because I feel like that undercuts what the movie was trying to say. I think the ideal ending for this movie would have been Wonder Woman stops Ares, and then the war just goes on. Her defeating Ares and the war ending undercuts the main theme of this movie. So that's the main problem I have with this movie, and why it's not at number 1 anymore. I still really like it. That problem just, it holds it back from, like, how great it could have been. So number 1 is Shazam! Exclamation point. It's the title of this movie. It's Shazam! Exclamation point. Shazam is a really fun movie, but it's also this really heartfelt, emotional movie. It has this, like, really fun premise of this kid who is able to become an adult superhero, and that leads to a lot of really fun jokes. But it also has this really emotional core to it, with Billy, like, learning his biological family isn't necessarily his real family, and I think that really made it emotional. I really liked this movie, and I think that it's the best movie in the DCEU. Like, Wonder Woman would be if it didn't have that one flaw at the end, but instead, Shazam is my favorite movie in the DCEU. So there you go, that's my list, my ranking of all the DCEU movies. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. See ya, movie fans.